Podcast. Thank you for listening to the number one podcast in the world that helps athletes. We help athletes develop proficiency. If you want to know what proficiency is, check it out. Keep listening because we help assist everyone that has a passion to play the game of baseball. Today is episode 107. Yes, 107. Every high school player wants to have a D1 offer for the most part. Do you really know what coaches are looking for? But guess what? Today's episode, I'm sitting down with a former college coach that's coached several schools at D1 level, and we're going to cover and uncover all the 10 truths about every player needs to hear before chasing that scholarship offer. And it's bigger than just getting the offer. And with that, I want you to understand all the stuff we're coming is from experience. I hope you guys take notes and get ready. Today's Today's guest is Coach Nicholas Enrique. He has coached D1 baseball for several years at Dartmouth, San Diego State, Stanford, and Santa Cala. Okay, help me
Santa
out.
Clara.
Santa Clara.
Santa Clara.
I'm so sorry, I butchered that. And he's also a trainer right now. He helps kids develop some things on their game. He has a YouTube channel. I'm sorry, an Instagram channel. He has all type of things can help you develop you where you need to be, the player you need to be to try to get to that D1 level. How you doing, Coach?
I appreciate the time, Coach Lowry. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm so excited. I'm just really excited. We tried to catch each other. We finally got each other. But I'm gonna go right. Let's just go. Let's
Hmm.
go right into it. Very first question. All these kids are chasing this dream. You know it. You've heard this dream many, many, many times, and there's nothing wrong
Hmm.
with dreaming. But the very first question I want to ask for you is, when should a kid, start figuring out when the recruiting part should start? What's the first thing that you think that high schooler players should decide if they might be D1 material? Because some of them may not be D1 material, which you know that. So what makes them?
Sure.
What's the first thing that college coaches look for that decides if they're a D1 player?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to participate in this conversation. I think the biggest thing with college recruiting is you can never start too young. So I think, watching games, maybe as in junior high or even in high school, or maybe even a little younger, just to get a feel for what it's like. Obviously, high school, you're closer to that age
Right.
of when you're going to play. I think getting an idea your freshman sophomore year of like how much the gap is between maybe your ability and those kids that are playing.
Right.
Um, and then as you start to get to your junior year, you're probably 24, 36 months away from getting on campus, and then
Okay.
you start getting a better feel of your ability when you're playing. You're gonna go up against that guy that's going to FAU or FIU or Miami, and now you're like, okay, well, how much better is that guy, or how much better am I
Right.
than that guy? So now you start getting a feel for how your
Right.
ability stacks up.
Right. That's good. That's good because we know how kids are. They go to this travel baseball, and they think because they're going to travel baseball and they play with the best team, they think that that's going to get them. That's the only way out, one way in and one way out, which leads to the next question. A lot of kids think that it's just about the bat, how they hit, or their arm, which we know is more than that, coach. But how much does grades and academics matter when deciding that offer, which school to go to?
I Yeah, that's an awesome question. I coached at some of the premier academic schools, Dartmouth, Stanford, and I also coached
Right.
at a state school, San Jose State. Um, this is the way I tell kids: the better your grades, the bigger the pie of schools that you can look at. So,
Okay.
example, if you have a 2.0, you're going to be limited in the amount of the types of schools that you can look at.
Right.
But if you have a 4.0, now that college list can get a lot bigger. Not only because you can get admitted to those schools, but you can get academic money.
Right.
One of my best friends coaches at Miami, and they have academic money that they package, you know, and
Right.
it's free money because it's based off of your academics. So the
Mm.
better your grades, the more opportunities you have.
Coach, that's really good. You know what? Because I'm glad you said that because coaching, I had this one kid I was coaching dealing with the subject we're talking about. very good athlete. He's just an athlete. He can
Hmm.
pitch, he can hit, he throws right-handed, hit left-handed. Had some decent speed, ran about 6'7", 6'8", and his grades were bad. Like, and we're at a Christian school, which you got to pay to go in there.
Yeah.
He always just does very little. I mean, I'm like, but on the
Hmm.
field he wants to do extreme. And I I,
Hmm.
I was talking to him, coach. Now that we're talking about this, I was talking to him, and I don't want to say his name. And I talked to his mom, and I was like, why his grades are so low? Well, he doesn't apply himself. Which we talked about this before we came on the air.
Yeah.
What the root of that is this. Now, so I told her, I said, listen, let me tell you something. Um, he has a D1 dream. There's nothing wrong with that, But
Hmm.
he's like, well, he's gonna go and play D1. Da 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 da. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. You just said that because he's like, coach, I just got a 2.0, and then he said, well, I got a 2.5 now. So basically, he plays the game because he's not
Yeah. Yeah.
motivated. He's not academically motivated
Right.
because he believes his talent is going to get open the doors. Now, back in the day, back in the day, back in the day, I forget what it called, Proposition 48 or something. Back in the day, I don't remember what it was like. They'll figure out a way to help you, but nowadays there's so much talent. Academics is number one. It just has to,
Right.
you have to have that. And also, I work with another school, a couple other schools in the Big Ten, and I noticed something because he shared something with coach for Iowa. Good friend of mine, Coach Rick Haler. He still coaches over there. Been there for like 30 years. This guy is just phenomenal. Some schools don't give you that much scholarship money, but if you have great
Right.
grades, you can make the team. But can you talk about that just a little bit, Coach, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I always tell people is, the grades part of it tells a lot about how you are as a player. If you score really high on those SATs and everything,
Right.
but your GPA is low, it's a reflection of, kind of how you are. You can perform at a high level, but over the course of, you know, 60 days, 90 days in high school or whatever, you don't perform. And it's the
Mm.
same as, on the baseball field. You can hit bombs and everything like that, but over the long haul, you
That's
don't
right.
apply yourself.
That's right. That's right, Coach. That's good. I appreciate you saying that's good. The next thing I want to ask from your experience, what's the biggest mistake that you see high school players or even their parents make in the recruiting process?
That's a great question. I think the biggest mistake is just understanding or believing that you're going to go out and just play in these tournaments and showcases and whatever, and college coaches are just going to flock to you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's it's a different if it's a different ball game nowadays with the transfer portal and JC kids and things like that. You have to be proactive now. Those kids that throw 95 miles an hour, LSU's coming to see them, that kind of thing. But
Right.
for the 99% of kids out there, that they have to be proactive in going out and marketing themselves
Right.
to, colleges and things like that.
Mm-hmm. That's
I think
good,
that's the
Coach.
thing. Go out and market yourself. If you're going to be, um, if you sell tires, you're gonna
That's it.
advertise in
That's it,
an
Coach.
auto catalog. But
That's right.
and same thing. If you don't want to go play in California and you're on a travel team, don't travel to California. Travel if you want to stay in the Southeast, play in
Right.
tournaments in the Southeast.
Oh
But
man, that's good.
you don't need to go out there and fly to these tournaments in California or Washington or New York if you don't even want to go to schools out there, because no, the schools that you're targeting, they're not going to be at those events.
Man, that's good, Coach. That's really good. I just thought about what you just said. It just kind of caught me off guard. You threw something at me. I never even thought about it because I coach travel ball as well, and I'm in South Florida, so most of the guys that are playing these tournaments, they live in this area. Well, just say
Right.
South Florida, the South, because Florida is so big. It's like California. It's
Hmm.
so big.
Yeah.
So you got Perfect Game, and you got Prospect Select, and most of the guys that are there want to play in Florida. and that's probably one of the
Right.
hardest states to play besides Florida, besides California and Louisiana. Those are some hard states to play baseball. It's that's what it is because of the talent. And it's interesting because I remember a guy that came from a different state that was on my travel team, and he came from Pennsylvania, and
Yeah.
he came for the summer to play ball here. That's really interesting because I think about what you said, because if you're trying to play, if you're from, let's just say you're from Pennsylvania and you're trying to go play somewhere in Alabama, go somewhere where they have a tournament in Alabama and play in the
Yep.
summertime so they can see you. So,
Absolutely.
man,
Absolutely.
I like that. I really appreciate it. I mean, this is a commercial break. If you guys have just tuned in, this sponsor is by YGP Sports. And guess what? If you're trying to get to the next level and you want to be exposed or get exposure to D1 level, guess what? I got a treat for you guys. September 30th is the day of my new book release, Are You Really D1? The name again is Are You Really D1? If you want to get more tips about that, I got a free download for you. You get 5 free chapters. All you got to do is DM me your email address, and I'd be gladly send it over to you. If you want more information, check me out on YouTube. It's YouGoin'Pro, and also Instagram YouGoin'Pro Sports. Alrighty, just had to throw that in there, Coach. But next question I want is, I talk to a lot of people, and one of the subjects I talk about in my book is character.
Hmm.
Character, coach. So, how big is the factor of character when it comes to attitude and character making that recruiting decision?
It's so big. As a coach, can you trust that person? Can you trust them, in the ninth inning? Can you trust them to show up to weights? Can you trust them to represent your school and your program right? Um, those are things that were non-negotiable for me. And I made mistakes, recruiting kids because they threw 92, but the character was a little suspect. And
Right,
looking back on it, I did a disservice to that player, bringing
right,
them to the program, and I did a disservice to the program. um, but character is huge.
mm,
It's part of what builds the culture of your high school program. It builds a culture of your travel program,
right,
or development program, and it
right.
it, it develops the culture of your college program. So those are things that are super important. My coach at Dartmouth, that I worked when I worked there, Bob Whalen, used to say, if you're going to be rude to your parents, you won't think twice about being rude to me as your coach. And it stuck with me, and I still remember that to this day.
Mm,
So,
wow.
how you treat your mom and your dad and your sister and your brother, if you're rude to them, again, you won't think twice about being rude to me.
Wow, that's good. I mean, I appreciate you saying that because we still have to do things respectfully on and off the field, no matter what it's like. Which I know you've seen
Hmm.
quite a few. You've been around coaching for years, and you've seen hundreds of players, hundreds at the D1 level, and also high school coming in. What separates that guy who's got the offer versus the guy who misses the offer? What's the separation you think? Because there's some guys that don't get an offer versus the ones that do get the offer. What's the separation? Is the size? Is it the physical body? Can you talk about that a little bit? In your opinion,
I
what
think
is
there's
a
a little bit of both.
okay?
Yeah, the physical ability and strength is important because it's a long season. It's not like, our game isn't like football where you show up on 10 Saturdays or 12 Saturdays and
Right.
you can recover, and it's at the beginning of the school year. Baseball, you got to go through fall, winter,
Fall, winter.
spring,
Yeah.
and you got a long, your body's got to last through those seasons, and the training. So that's the physical part of it. And the mental side of it is, man, it's tough to play baseball.
Yes.
You could be on top of the world one day, and then the next day you're on the bottom of the shoe because you had a rough day.
Yeah.
So it's really, really tough. And being able to go up and down that roller coaster. Some guys are too high, too low, and that affects performance, and that affects the rest of your teammates.
Yes.
Especially if you're in on the field. So
Right.
those two things are critical.
Mm.
And then I try to talk to the guys that I work with is like, hey, let's try to stay, like this. And this is something I always tell guys, and you'll probably laugh when I tell you this, but those guys that are in the cage and they take a bad swing and they're, oh man, and they're, just missed it, whatever. And then they hit a missile
Right.
and they kind of walk around like
Right.
they're,
Right. They did like
they're
they
too
did
cool for
so.
school.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And so I was telling them, if you're gonna be mad, if you're gonna hang your head and be like, oh man, when you miss hit a ball, when you hit a shot in the cage, you should be jumping around doing cartwheels.
Right.
And the kids laugh, and I'm like, well, if you're not gonna do that, then you don't get mad at yourself if you miss a pitch,
Right. Because it's going to
because
happen because you're developing
it's
habits.
gonna happen.
Right. 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 Coach,
100%.
that's really 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 good. I mean, I like what you just said because one of my favorite players of all time is Barry Bonds, and
Hmm.
he talks about mastering batting practice,
Hmm.
mastering batting practice. Because a lot of times kids go,
Yeah.
I don't know how you were, but when you were playing, but when I played, every opportunity was value to me. Every opportunity,
Oh
not
yeah.
not just because of it going to the cage, or some guy said, well, I don't have live pitching and I don't hit good off a machine. All these shenanigans we go through just
Yeah.
because they want something different and they hearing stuff. I said, well, what happens to the guy in Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico that don't have anyone pitching to them, and all they have
Yeah.
is someone tossing it, flipping for hours. I mean, and what happens to those kids that don't have that travel team? I mean, they don't understand that because we're so privileged in
Right.
general. And that's just something that I think we need to focus on, which nowadays, the social media is a big thing. It has
Hmm.
changed the culture of baseball. It's changed everything for athletics, NCAA, NFL. It changed everything. Our life has never been the same, which deals with social media. We don't talk about that. Social media is huge right now. So can a player's social media presence hurt their chances versus help them? How much could it help them versus hurt them?
I think it's, again, we talked about marketing yourself. It can help you because the coach could be in the weight room at 6 a.m. and going through his X or Twitter account or Instagram, and he sees a video of you and he's like, I need to check this dude out.
Right.
So it can help you 100%. I don't think you have to post yourself all the time, or DM or tag coaches and everything. But I also think it can hurt you too, because everybody's got a camera, and everybody's filming things nowadays. So you could say something off colored or disrespectful, and guess what,
Right.
somebody's got their phone right there and is recording it. So it can hurt you too. There was a kid I remember, um, very very good shortstop out of Northern California when I was coaching, and he said some off-colored remarks after a
Mm-hmm.
game and lost a scholarship.
Wow.
And his coach called me and he was like, hey, what do you think of you know Johnny Jones? And I,
Right.
I had to go. I had to talk to my head coach, and I go, Coach, he can really, really play. And I go, but this also happened. And he goes, all right, well, let me talk with the our sports supervisor at the time. And he gave him the facts, and he's like, you can't recruit that kid. Can't
Wow.
recruit him. And I was like, okay, that's fair. I think this is a one-time mistake, and I think I've called other people, and they said this was a mistake. Um, but the head coach, and I agreed with him too, and our sports supervisor said, in this day and age, that'll follow him, and we
Mm-hmm.
we can't take a chance on a kid that said what he said in that video, because it had gone all over social
Mm-hmm.
media. And I was like, fair enough, totally understand. And he wound up being a very good player. I think he played just a little bit of pro ball, but man, that followed him.
Forever.
Totally followed him.
Right. It's like a constant, like you've been scarred. It's never gonna leave you.
Yep.
It's there. Even though people may
Mm-mm.
forgive you and forget about it, but it's a stain. You know,
Yeah.
and it goes back to some famous baseball players that I know, and they say that they said the Astros cheated. They say the Astros did this, and I'm like, okay. Then they said Barry Bonds cheated, and then they said this and all these. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. You know, and it's a that's a thin line. It's a thin line. So which leads me to the next thing I want to talk about is, don't burn a bridge, because a lot of these kids, they burn bridges because of the lack of information, as far as the lack of understanding. You never know who's watching you. How important is that for a kid trying to go D1, coach? When you tell a kid, listen, don't burn a bridge. So basically, let me give you a scenario. You got one school's a D1 school, right? Let's just say LSU. Let's use LSU. And then you got the other school is Santa Clara, your old school. And Santa Clara, you got an opportunity to play because they don't have as many LSU stars. Okay.
Hmm.
So and then but you snarl your nose at the Santa Clara coach, like, oh, I don't want to go here, da 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 da, and I'm not gonna talk to them. But then what happens is you got this kid that goes and play for LSU and never plays. Now he's
Hmm.
thinking he's burnt the bridge. So what can you tell the listeners, the high schoolers, the importance of not burning a bridge? Because that
Well, I
dream
think
school.
it's, yeah.
Go ahead, coach.
No, I was going to say you're 100% right. Is the fact that with the day and age we're living in, with JUCO, the transfer portal, things like that, one year you could be like, yeah, Coach Lowry isn't very good and blah, 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 blah. I'm
Right.
going to go to XYZ school. And then the next year you get cut
That's right.
and it's like, well, shoot, maybe I need to go give him a call and hit
Call.
him back up because he was all over me. And then all of a sudden it's like, he's like, well, you know, 18 months ago, you were like, dude, you're not the coach that's going to help me get to,
Right.
the promised land or whatever.
Mm.
So it's, and it's a small world. I haven't coached in college in 9 years, and I still get phone calls from buddies of mine that are like, hey, do you know anybody that, that
Mm.
does this or does that? And, you know, there's a couple kids that I train with that I think I'm in fact I know they're Division 1 hitters, but they're in a tough spot because the portal and JC guys, and this goes back to character we talked about. The number one thing I tell when coaches call about this certain player, I go, we've trained together for 2 years. He's never been late to a training session.
Mm.
And they go, really? And I go, he's never been late. I go, he's always maybe 5 minutes early, and that's him running late. I go, but he's never been late. And if he has to miss, he will always let me
Always
know
call. I
ahead of
like that.
time.
I
And
like that.
that, because you can see the physical ability, but those are things that you're not going to see very much. And I always tell him he's never late. He's never
Coach,
missed a
that's
training session. And
wow.
he lets me, if he is, he'll let me know early. And that because that tells the coach a little bit more about their ability and things like that. Um, and so a little bit off topic with the
Right. Well, that's good
burning a
because
bridge thing, but
I like
if you burn a bridge with me, sometimes coach will call, hey, what do you got on this guy? Uh, he's got ability. He can do
it.
it. I just I don't know. I
I
don't know.
got you. I got you, coach.
You
That's
know.
that's that's pretty good. This is episode 107. Very own Nicholas Enrique. He has coached for several years at the D1 level, and we're talking about how can you get to the next level at D1 level. Here's some tips we're giving you. So you might want to download this episode. This is some powerful information, good information. Coach, let's talk about another thing. You coming from
Yeah.
the college rankings, and you've seen a lot of talent. You know, which you've been to different schools. So my question to you is what's let's talk about the transfer portal. Now it's different because now you got a high schooler
Hmm.
coming in, right? He's 18, possibly maybe 19, whatever the case may be. But the problem is this: they got some unrealistic expectations because of the transfer portal. So, do you think the transfer portal has hurt the high schooler, or what can a high schooler do to position himself to have an opportunity to play at D1 level?
Yeah, I think it's hurt the high school kids, because as a coach, you could go get a kid that's 2 years older, has 250 at bats in college, is 30 pounds stronger, um, that is ready to play right away.
Right.
And so that's hurt the high school kids, in a way. On the flip side, it can help them in a way because those kids that are high school, they might come in a little hungrier. they're not a finished product.
Correct.
There's bigger upside, with their ability. If it was a high school kid, I could go, well, he's played football or soccer, and if he trained, you know, 10 months out of the year exclusively for baseball, how much better could he get? Where
Right.
that transfer portal kid, maybe, there's a smaller ceiling, for him,
Yeah.
or her, if you're coaching
Right.
softball, that kind of
Right.
thing. But
Right. Right.
those are things that I always kind of say. And um, I had this conversation with a coach at a lower tier Division 1. I said, listen, the kid can really hit. I go, if he goes to JC, I go, I'm not bagging on you or anything, but he might get too good and you might not have a chance of getting him in a year or
Right.
two. And the guy goes, I 100% agree with you. He goes, but I can also get a kid that has the same hitting ability, but is more of a finished product. And I was like,
Mm.
that's a tough decision. That's a tough choice.
Wow.
So those are things that, high school kids just remember, is that you can get a lot better, 100%. And how much better could you be in a year-round training environment?
Right. I like that, Coach. So, which leads me to this the $1 million question. Okay,
Yeah.
we talked about D1, but there's another thing that people don't like to talk about because they don't understand the dynamics of a D1 product. I mean, school. I apologize. D1 school.
Yeah.
And I talk about this in my YouTube channel. I talked about this about kids are trying to get all the luxuries and they're not looking at the full package. What are they going to get with that? And also there's a responsibility they got to get with that, which I know playing at
Hmm.
Stanford, ain't no cakewalk. I'm looking at your resume. You're playing it. I mean, that's like right under Vanderbilt. Vandy's at a different level,
Hmm.
but I mean,
Yeah.
let's talk about that because at the end of the day, picking a D1 school help give you a little more nuggets about how to choose the right school because at the end of the day, you have to have the ability and you have to know what's the pluses and the negatives, the pros and the cons. Because a lot of
Hmm.
times people just look at the luxury. I'm going to Stanford. Stanford
Yeah.
they got good gear, they got a great football, they got this, they got that, they got a girl basketball. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because maybe that D1 top level may not be the one. Maybe it's that lower level. For example,
Yeah.
there's some lower level schools. I know one, University of Austin P. That's another one.
Hmm.
That's D1.
Yeah.
University of Middle Tennessee State. I know those are other D1 schools. So can you talk about that, the different level of D1 so people can make a better decision?
Yeah, I think it's every school's got its own unique challenges and things that they bring to the table. It could be a better geographic fit for you. It could be a better academic fit for you. If you're a 2.5 student, you know, you probably wouldn't get into an Ivy League school like Dartmouth, but if you did, that would be a disservice to you because you wouldn't be able to handle the academic rigors. And it's not to say that you couldn't do the work, it
Correct.
just would be very, very difficult. So maybe looking at a state school,
Mm,
really good state schools out there, you could get a terrific education there. Um, it just it doesn't fit, the academic, you know, your academic portfolio. So when I was
right.
recruiting, I always tell kids, look at the school, number one, from an academic standpoint, look at the school from a social standpoint, and then look at the school from an athletic standpoint. You know,
Mm,
you could want to come to Dartmouth, but I would be like, hey, it's in the Northeast and it could
right.
snow.
Right.
And
Right.
if the kid's like, I don't want to go to the snow, well, then this is a bad place for you to
Place for
look.
you. I
You
like
know,
that, Coach. That's good.
or a kid would say, "Hey, I want to come to Dartmouth," and I'd say, "Well, where do you want to major in?" "I want to be a pilot." Okay, well then don't
Mm,
don't look at Dartmouth because we don't have look at Air Force. Go my one of my good friends, Coach Kozlowski at Air Force, call him because that's what they're best at doing. Like Paul Skeens, that's what he wanted to
mm,
do. um,
right.
and look at the school from a baseball standpoint, at the end, because,
Wow.
maybe you don't want to, put that time and commitment in of practicing, 2, 3
Right.
hours a day, that kind of thing. And you have a better opportunity to play right away at Division 2 or Division 3 school. Go
Wow.
look there. So if you keep things in order of the the academic, the social, and then the athletic,
That's it.
keep it in that hierarchy, the
Mm,
chances are you're going to end up at the right school. But when you
mm,
flip, the baseball part or the social part in front of the academic, and then you get those tiers messed up, that's when you have a problem, in
mm.
school or in, that kind of thing.
I like that, Coach. That's really, really good. This is episode 107. Man, this is really good stuff, man, Coach. I like that because it leads me to the
Download
next.
107.
They need to download it because this is I mean, this is like some serious heavy stuff. I mean, Coach, listen to this one. I got a story. It goes to the question I want to ask you. There's kids that are getting highly recruited in high school. And, sometimes there's some other ears talking to them to go to certain
Yeah.
schools,
Yeah.
which we talked about that before we got on the air. So, I have two kids I know for sure. Two kids that was with me when they were freshmen, sophomores in high school. And I told them this. This is what I told them, Coach. I said, "There's nothing wrong with a JUCO. No
No.
disrespect to D1. I'm not trying to.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to dilute your dreams, but I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with a JUCO, and I want you to kind of help me out, back me up with this." And so,
Hmm.
anyway, these two kids, these two young boys, very good. One of them, father played Major League Baseball. Another kid was a great pitcher. He was more like uh, he didn't have a lot of speed, but he can outthink you, and he can throw junk. So anyway, they both went to this D1 school. Both two different D1 schools. One went to a school in Illinois, and one went in Florida. And so I told them, I said, "Listen, are you sure this is the place?" "Yeah, coach. Yeah, All right, I let it go. So guess what happens to both of those kids? Just guess. I'll give you one guess. Just what happened to them. Just give. Just
Probably ended up back home 4, 5, 6 months later.
both of those kids complained. They did not play the first year
Yeah.
at all because they didn't do what we're talking about. They didn't do the homework.
Yeah.
They went by impulse.
Hmm.
Well, this is school is nice and I think I can play. I said, well, there's more to it besides that because I had told them too. I said, listen, so the first kid, he went to a JUCO. He finally went to a JUCO. Finally. He just
Yeah.
transferred. The next year he went to a JUCO. Because then you wasted a whole year, coach, because he only had
Yeah.
he only played like two games and had a total of 8 at bats the whole season
Hmm. Yeah.
at a D1 lower level. It's D1 lower level. And he only
Yeah.
had like 8 at bats. So you wasted a whole year. A
Yeah.
year. It's gone. And then the other kid is a pitcher. He didn't hit but maybe one inning, 2 innings. And just I
Yeah.
mean, but I think it goes back to humility, you know, being able to make that decision. When is a good time to make the shift from D1 to a lower levels uh
I I
baseball?
think that this is something I always tell guys is, you when they're juniors or seniors in high school and they're looking at schools and they say, well, I can play at that level. I always remind them, you brought the word humility. I always remind them, do you remember when you were a freshman in high school? And the kid will say, yeah. I'm like, could you play varsity as a freshman in high school? No. Oh, no, no way, coach, I couldn't do that. But you're saying the same thing now.
Man, that's
You're
powerful.
gonna you're gonna be a freshman in college. Are you gonna be better than that senior? Could you play varsity?
Woo.
And they forget, and it's human nature.
Right,
They
right.
forget about that, and they're like, wow, I never really thought about that. I'm like, it's the same kind of jump as a freshman in high school. Could you play varsity? No. Well, you're doing the
Mm.
exact same thing,
Same
but
thing.
you're 3, 4 years older. But
Right,
so are those kids that were at
right,
varsity, you're
right.
as a freshman in high school.
Coach, I'm gonna use that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that one. I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, I like that, Coach. That's like a wisdom nugget. I gotta take that one. That
Yeah.
was like, wait
Or
a
the
minute. Wow.
one thing, I have this young man who I coached, and he's at a Power 5 school, and he was playing JVs, and he was like, Coach, I'm better than that varsity shortstop. I'm like, okay, yeah, probably. He goes, that varsity team's not very good, and I could play there. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Probably. I go, let
Mm-hmm.
me ask you a question. And he's like, yeah. I go, you're a shortstop, right? And he goes, yeah. And I go, if the winning run was at third base, two outs in the seventh inning and there was a slow roller and you're playing shortstop, could you make that slow roller and throw that guy out so you can go to extra innings? And he looked at me and his dad looked at me and I go, "You're not ready." And he
That's it.
looked at me, I said, "If there's hesitation,
The
then you're
answer is
not
no.
ready."
That's it.
And I go, and that's okay.
That's right.
That tells you what you need to
Need to work
do
on. That's right.
to work on. And if the answer is no, then you're not ready yet. And that's okay.
Right.
But you got to keep that in mind, because if you think that you're the best at, then you need to make a play when the game's on the line.
Mm. Coach, that's
Just to
good.
just make the play or make that pitch. Can you throw that changeup with the bases loaded
Right.
to get the guy in front? If you can't do it, it's okay.
Right. We
But
need to
it
work on
tells
that. Right.
you what you got to work on.
Coach,
Exactly.
that's really good. This episode 107 is like hot. This is hot. This stuff is hot. I love it. Coach,
Yeah.
I got another question. This is good, man. This is so good. Okay, here's another question. We're talking about everybody just tune in. This is episode 107. And we're talking about D1, how to get to D1 level baseball and get noticed. So, Coach, check this out. This is another question. So, what is the smartest move a player can make to get noticed by a coach? The smartest move. If you had to put two or three things together, what's some of the smartest things based on what you just talked about? That play. You just talked about that play. What are the smartest moves you can make to get noticed by a college coach?
Consistency. Just be
Ooh,
consistent.
that's it.
Just be
That's it.
consistent.
That's
You
it.
know, if you can, you don't have to throw 100, but if you can be consistently good at, and that's probably the extreme, but if you can be
Right.
consistently good at 94, 95, be
Right.
consistently good at 94, 95.
Right.
If the best thing you do is you make the routine play, make the
Make
routine
the
play.
routine play. That's it.
I always tell kids this that are catchers and they laugh at me. I'm like, "You want to know when you're a good catcher?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Nobody notices you. You don't drop the ball, you're not running to the backstop. You're going to have pitchers that bounce balls, but they're not going past you. You know, you're there. It's like a bad umpire. You don't notice a bad umpire till he makes bad calls.
Mm,
You know, Same thing with, just be consistent.
man.
You don't have to be Superman out there. Just, you collect your
Wow.
hits, you make the plays on defense,
Mm,
you're a good, person. Then,
mm-hmm.
it's just like the academic part of it. You don't need to be a 4.0 student, but if the best you can do is a 2.8, be the best 2.8 student you can.
Mm. Coach, this is good,
Just
man.
just do that.
Wow. Which leads me to that next $1 million question. Okay, we all know that some guys just don't get scholarships. We know that, right?
Hmm.
Some
Right.
guys have to, coach may say, hey, by the way, um, Nicholas, I want you to come on the squad. Unfortunately, we don't have scholarship money, but your academics are good, so we're gonna get you
Yeah.
come on out in the fall and show me what you got. So let's talk about some walk-on stories. Okay, here's a walk-on story. Everywhere you go, there's gonna be walk-ons everywhere.
Yeah.
Players trying to make it, they didn't get the offer, whatever the case may be. And they never might not never see the film. Maybe.
Hmm.
Which I do know one story, which you probably know. Andy Dalton for the
Hmm.
Auburn University. He was a walk on. Can you talk about that opportunity based on what we watched it. We watched it on the film because some guys may have to walk on because they got the grades. They
Yeah.
can go to the school. It's just the school doesn't
Hmm.
have the money. So
Right.
talk about that opportunity, how Andy Dalton took advantage of that opportunity, and so to help some
Yeah.
of these listeners out.
Just it's that you hit the nail right on the head. It's all about opportunity. Will that school give you an opportunity to earn playing time? One of my favorite kids that I ever coached came to Dartmouth from Dallas, Texas. 6'3". I think Damon was 6'3". He was a catcher. Shouldn't have been a catcher. He wound up being an outfielder, and he didn't play very much. And he just came as a walk on, and we were like, this guy isn't playing super good. Let's give Damon a chance. And he wound up being a two-time captain, played, pro ball with the Giants for a little bit. I think he got to like A ball
Okay.
um, but now he's like a big wig with Morgan Stanley,
Wow.
and for him, it was all about just opportunity.
Mm,
Will that school give you an opportunity to earn playing time?
Mm.
And the great thing is with, say, a school that's got limited scholarships, it's not like they're sitting a kid that they have 90% of a
Right.
scholarship in. And if there's no scholarships, especially at the D2 or D3 level, it's just about who plays the best. And so that's an awesome, opportunity right there. Is
Hmm.
everybody's on equal playing level.
Right. That's
Now
right.
maybe the seniors earned that opportunity, to go over 10 because they have a track record,
Right.
but that doesn't mean that the freshmen can't do the same thing.
Right. 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 Because Andy Dalton, he came in as a walk on because his school didn't have a program anymore. They were gone, and then he walked on
Mhm.
Auburn. For the people that don't know, Andy Dalton, he played this previous year, just passed, and he had an opportunity to pinch hit, and he came up to the
Mhm.
plate, and I think it was the second or third pitch, and he hit a home run. That was his D1 opportunity.
Yep.
He maximized
Hmm.
that opportunity, and who knows, it may be a documentary one day. We don't know. But the year before,
Yeah,
coach,
exactly.
the year before, he was on a D3 school, a D3, which they don't give
Yeah.
any scholarships, athletic scholarships, and he maximized that opportunity because a lot of times it takes some serious humility to sit when you've played a whole year. He played in the College World Series the year before in D3 level, and then all of a sudden the
Yeah.
next year, But that's how baseball is. I mean, we talked about, man, consistency. That's something I talk about that in my book. Man, you're all in my book. You're all in the book. You're hitting all type of channels right there. But coach, if we got a few more minutes, I wanted you can share a moment that the listeners don't know about when you were coaching. Anybody that you have coached or seen uh, that you could share with us that done some great things and moved on with his life, either played college ball, I mean pro ball, or he's doing
Yeah.
something great in the world.
Oh man, there's a lot of guys out there,
You give us
guys
two. Can
that
you give us
that
two?
are.
Can you give us two?
There's one kid that he plays with the Angels right now and pitched for the Cubs, Kyle Hendricks. He
Kyle
throws
Hendricks.
80, 87, 88, 89 miles an hour, 11 years big league service. Um, Freshman year at Dartmouth played, pitched really well. Sophomore year kind of struggled a little bit and then went to the Cape and was like, you know what, if I want to be a professional baseball player, I need to really dedicate myself. And went to the Cape, had a very good summer, came back and was just a different guy, just a man on a mission, basically. Um, and he's pitched 11 years in pro ball and doesn't
What's his,
throw harder
what's
than
his name,
89
Coach?
miles an hour.
What's his name,
Kyle
Coach?
Hendricks.
Okay,
Kyle
Kyle Hendricks.
Hendricks. He didn't throw harder than 88, 89 miles an hour. Fastball, changeup, curveball guy. Um, World Series with the Cubs. I mean, he's an awesome guy. Economics major at Dartmouth.
Wow,
Um, I mean,
wow,
just a super guy. And then I referenced Damon Wright that never got past single A, but now he's working, at, I believe it's Morgan Stanley as like one of their head honchos and finance. I mean, guys, borderline brilliant. Just a lot of different guys that I've coached over the years that, some of them, there's a kid in Arizona that I can think about right now. He works with underprivileged kids.
mm,
After passing the law or the bar exam, but he found a calling working with disabled kids. I
mm.
mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So just a lot of different guys that I've come across, and they're making an impact in the lives of others, other than on the baseball field.
Baseball field, man. That's good, man. Because I looked up Cal Hendricks. I know he played for the Angels. Was it last? I think it
Hmm.
was last year, or a year before. Because I'm a Giants fan and an Angels fan, so I kind of remember those guys that play. I mean, not a bad guy at all. I mean, he did some
Yeah,
great things. He went to Dartmouth. I mean, I never would have thought Dartmouth was a baseball school. I never would have
yeah.
thought that. So they play
No,
in the Ivy
absolutely. I
League.
mean,
Are they
there's
in the
been
Ivy League, Coach?
Ivy League, yeah, yeah, Ivy League. Ben Rice, who's with the Yankees right now, played at Dartmouth. I mean, he's got like 15, 16 home runs right now, and
Wow.
God, I'm trying to think who else. Brad Osmus was a catcher for the. God, Osmus was the Padres and Astros, and
Okay.
so I mean, you just need an opportunity to
Yeah.
if you're good enough. you'll get, you'll go play pro ball, but you need to have the opportunity to play and
Yeah.
showcase yourself. And that's the
Mm,
same thing whether it's at high school level, travel, baseball, summer baseball.
that's right.
Just get an opportunity to
True.
get on the field. Mark DeRosa says it all the time. If you're playing on the best team but you have zero at bats, nobody cares.
I love it. I love that because I say that I talk about that all the time. You're like, well, I'm gonna go on this team. I'm gonna go on this team. I'm gonna go to this school. I'm gonna go to this school. I'm like, okay, so you're gonna go to school. What you gonna do? I'm gonna sit the bench. I'm gonna sit the bench. No one talks about that, but coach, that's extremely very good information you're giving out.
Hundred percent.
We're gonna close it out here in a few minutes, but I want you to give me a couple. I have two more questions left. One question is this: if you had to make a choice right now, five guys, not four, Mount Everett's baseball players of all time, yours, and why is that? And who would those four or five people be?
Playing wise,
Yeah.
ability wise,
No, as far as Mount Everest, like players that you would say are
best
this is
players ever.
right. I got mine, which we already know who he is, Mr. Barry Bonds. He's one. But
Yeah,
what's your
Bonds
fourth?
for sure.
Bonds is
Um, Otani. I think that
okay.
guy's
You're gonna put him on
that
Mount
guy's
Everest.
crazy. Oh
You're gonna
yeah,
put,
I mean, because he can pitch and hit. He can pitch
okay.
and hit.
Nobody
I
can
mean,
do
that
that.
guy is nobody
Okay.
can do that. Um,
Who else?
I'm a big fan of Mookie Betts because he can play
Oh,
the infield, he can play the
yeah,
outfield,
outfield.
and
Yeah.
he can do that.
Okay.
Um, I'm partial to him. I love Freddie Freeman.
Freddie.
You
Oh
want to talk
yeah,
about character, and
Freddie.
he's an awesome player, but talk about character. Whew, I would I would take that guy 9 times out of 10. I think he can
Yeah.
hit, and he's all about team. He's all
Yeah.
about team.
Yeah.
You know.
I thought about what you just said because Freddie Freeman. I had an episode on my YouTube channel. And I talked about Freddie Freeman, and I
Mhm.
talked about teamwork. I remember the play. If you can remember, he had pinch hit. I think it was the World Series several years, about
Yeah.
3 4 years ago. He pinch hit came in. He was hurt, and they told him to
Yeah.
come in and pinch hit. And he hit a game-winning home run, and it was the game was over. He hit. I'll never
Hmm.
forget that. I mean, that takes a whole lot of humility because he came from Atlanta. He was with Atlanta for a
Hmm.
while. Then he came over to Dodgers.
Yep.
He came from one good organization to a great organization, and
Hmm.
don't hate on me, people. I'm just giving credit where credit's due. The
Yeah.
Dodgers are the Dodgers, and my team is not
Yeah.
not there. But Freeman is a, I mean, he's just class. The guy can play. He's a team player.
He's all about it. Yeah.
He's and they got a
Um,
great system. Their system is just great.
100%.
So
100%.
I appreciate that. It's been a blast, man. I've got one last question,
Yeah.
and this is for this going back to before we close it out. Um, for the people that are walk-ons, don't have an offer. Okay, if you can give one piece of advice for every high school kid dreaming to play D1 baseball, what would that be?
I go back. I talked about this guy all the time, but the coach I worked with at Dartmouth used to say, recruiting is like the ocean. There's days where it goes up, there's days where it goes down. Don't get too high, don't get too low. And the one question I always tell kids all the time is when you're looking at a college and you're trying to decide, forget about all the sexy stuff, the sweatshirts and everything. Just ask yourself this one question:
Okay.
Can I see myself waking up for 4 years at that school?
Wow.
If you can say I could see myself waking up for 4 years at this school, that encompasses the academics, the social, the baseball. It encompasses everything. And if you sit there and go, I don't think I could wake up 4 years at that school, then that's not a school to
Wow.
look at.
Wow. Coach, I never thought about that. I never.
Hmm.
Do you think that'll cut down some of the transfer portal? If you think.
I think it would in some fashion. I think the transfer portal is with the new rules with the amount of roster space. I think that's gonna significantly cut down the transfer portal. Um, but just again, just ask yourself, could I see myself waking up for 4 years at that school? And if you hesitate or say no, then don't look at that school.
Wow. I never thought about that, man. I just never, ever, ever, and I had 106 episodes. This is 107. I never, ever, ever thought about that because I was in the transfer portal. I left, but I went from a JUCO to another school and had a couple offers, but I made a bad. I mean, I made a decision I made, but I didn't think about the things we're talking about today because I wasn't educated on that. Back then,
Yeah.
we had to make a phone call, and
Yeah.
send them a letter and hope your advisor at your school will send them a letter. Hey, we got Seville Laurie trying to go over here, da da da. And I'm closing out, but I wanted to share this for the listeners. It's interesting because you talked about that, and I was like, well, I had two opportunities, very good schools, and I was like, okay, I went to visit one school, coach, only one. The one that loved me the most is the one I went to visit. But that I didn't go to that
Hmm.
school. I didn't go to that
Yeah.
school. But the reason I didn't go to
Hmm.
that school because I wasn't educated. And
Yeah.
he told me, I'll never forget what the coach told me. He said, listen, son, you run a 6'4", 60, you're gonna play center field. And I went to the field. I went to the field and it was 410 in the center field. And I was like, nah. I told myself, I mean, he took me out to dinner, whole nine
Hmm.
yards, treated me great. But I was like, when I left there, I said, I was so scared to run to play in that field. I mean, being a JUCO transfer, coming over, he was pumping me. I said, "How many more outfielders we got coming that's playing center?" He said,
Yeah.
"I think he said two more," and I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
that doesn't, I mean." So anyway, I never went to that school because I was intimidated by the field. I was intimidated by the field,
Yeah.
not to play,
Yeah.
just the field. And then I went to another school, and it's funny because he had me in center field, but I wound up being a better left fielder.
Hmm.
I was like a center fielder in left field. I was like Barry.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm left-handed, it was just I see the ball better. I seen the ball very well. I play left field like center field, so nothing
Yeah.
really dropped. But it's just interesting that you said that. You talked about consistency, talked about character, opportunities. We talked a little bit about coaching, because coaching has a lot to do with it, and also finding the
Yeah.
right school if you want to play in different environments,
Yeah.
weather-wise, because
Hmm.
that has a lot to do with it. And now that I know now, that's why we're educating listeners now. But coach, I
100%.
appreciate it. Thank you very much, man. I want you to give out your closing remarks, and then I'll close it out. And I want to say thank you.
I think, Seville, again, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this conversation and just giving out information. And, you know, if there's one thing that somebody picked up, then this was all worth the time because
Yeah,
it's all about helping kids. And, somebody gave me the information to help me learn. And that's what your and my job is to help pass that on to the
the
next
generation.
group of players.
Yeah. Coach, what's your channel so people can get you to if you want some services or something they want to
If you
reach
go
out to
to
you.
if you go on Instagram, it's just Coach Enriquez. It's Enriquez. I post stuff in there about recruiting, about hitting, and I'm just trying to pass along good information. And it's stuff that I know that works because I've taught it. I've seen guys have success with it. And it's funny you said Bonds is your favorite player. I posted something about Bonds that a quote he said today. Don't talk to me about mechanics until you talk about the strike zone and swinging at good pitches.
I love it. I see. I love
That's
it.
it.
I was like, I'm gonna repost that one because I was like,
Yep.
I need to. I'm using that because we start practice next week. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use that one. I'm using that one.
Yeah.
So listen, don't tell me about mechanics. Are you swinging at good pitches?
That's
Are
it.
you swinging at good
You
pitches?
swinging a ball in the dirt, you could have the best swing in the world. It
Oh,
ain't gonna help you.
man, this has been great. Episode 107. This has been nothing but great. Nicholas Enrique, we appreciate it, Coach. You've been nothing but a wealth of information. Also, you're in my book as well, because every time I didn't even tell you until the end. I'm like, okay, he's talking about. I mean, just my questions. I'm looking at my questions, and you start talking about this. I say, oh, he's talking about this. So
Yep.
I must be doing something right. So anyway,
And we all are. We all
thank you.
are.
We all are. But thank God for that. I mean, thank you for the opportunity. And then I'm going to close out, man. But appreciate that. I thank you again. Episode 107, Nicholas Enrique. If you want to know more information about the D1 process or how to be in that line of getting an offer, this is the episode you want to download and give it to your friends. If you want any services, anything, updates, go to Coach Nicholas Enrique's Instagram. But my question is this, I'm closing out. The question is this: where are you being led? Everybody, where are you being led? In other words, what direction are we going in? Are you going north, south, east, or west? The reason I said it for the athletes, coach, is because a lot of times we don't know what direction we're going in. The question is led. What is led? L stands for listen. Listen to everything coaches said today. Listen. That's the one thing we need to start doing more. Less talk, more listening. And kids don't want to listen; they just want to talk. I said, with listening, is the most powerful thing that God has given us. Two ears, not one. We have two ears, and also with that, faith comes by hearing. You can have faith by listening to someone else, hearing what they're saying and learning. Faith comes with, applying what you learned, which faith comes by hearing, but also with that, the E stands for execute. Execute what coach just said today. A lot of times we listen to things, but we're not executing. Faith does anything to you unless you apply what you just heard. You got to apply what you just heard. It's like a coach. You told me, hey, Savell, I need you to go back 2 steps, crow hop, and I need you to hit the cutoff. Not throw it over his head. Hit the cutoff. Execute what you just heard. Last letter is D. I believe God has called us all to dominate in some capacity in our life. Something that God's given us all an ability, So with that being said, listen, execute, and dominate. It's Coach Laurie, very own episode 107, Nicholas and Enrique, the very own. This is a classic. You want to download this one. This is one of the best ones we've had. Hey, thanks a lot. Go do what you have to do. Hey, win. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, brother.